Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is The Magic to Finding the Joy of Living. And I received an email a few weeks ago from a woman who listed a bunch of things that were happening in her life. And she said that she liked so many of my podcasts, but was there a method that she can go through to completely handle and accept all these things that were going on in her life? And in order to respect her privacy, I thought it would be a good idea to give an example from my life and then go through a process that I think could be very helpful for all of us when we're faced with a problem or something that upsets us or an unexpected event. So this weekend, my ex-husband got married, and I just found out that they're having a baby in March. And you would think something like that would destroy me, would wipe me out. He left me 5 years ago, and he has clearly moved on. And I've said this on many podcasts. At first, when he left, I was devastated, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to find my way. But through processing my feelings, grieving, a lot of tears, I found my way back. And I found my way back by all the spiritual principles that I discuss on this podcast. So the first thing is you have to feel your feelings, and you can't run away from that. And as difficult as it might feel, and as much as we want to numb ourselves and run away, part of the process is allowing ourselves, loving ourselves enough to say, I feel a certain way. But as we're feeling things, we could still move forward. And although I've moved on, it took a lot of moving forward to get there. And so while I was feeling all my feelings, I used this method that I'm actually going to name the magic method. And I love that name because when you go from the worst moment of your life where you feel like you're not going to be able to move on to eventually a beautiful life filled with joy and abundance, it's magic. So the first thing I would do every day is I would do the maybe practice. And at that time, and at many times, my biggest fear is that I wouldn't be okay. My children wouldn't be okay. I would never be able to move on. I wouldn't get through a day without crying. So I wouldn't be able to afford my life. And I'd ask myself every day, are you absolutely positive that this fear is true? And you don't know what's going to happen next. Your biggest fear might not happen, and something else could happen, and something beautiful could happen. So I would go through every day, absolutely certain, no, I'm not absolutely certain I'm not going to be okay. I'm not certain I'm going to cry every day. What else is there? Maybe you'll be okay. Maybe you'll find your way. Maybe there's a life waiting for you. And even if you liked your old life better, maybe there's still something to experience. And after I would go through the maybe practice, I would start to realize that there was hope for me. And over time, the next process was acceptance. And there are two reasons why we accept things. One is, it is what it is. You see that things are not the other way anymore. You are not together anymore. It is behind a wall that you cannot reach. And so when you accept that it's happening, you land, even if you land in your own misery. But landing at least stops you from sinking. And then another part of accepting is not resisting your life. And you accept because it gives you a place to stand to create something new. So at first you accept because you realize the futility of arguing with it, and then you end up miserable, but at least in a steady place of misery. And then you start to accept because you have a place to stand to start a new life. And then the next step is gratitude. When you are grateful for what you have, you are allowing resources into your life. You are allowing that place you are standing, even if you're miserable, to recognize the good things. And you can use those good things to create something new in your life. And as I went on, I was able to be grateful for everything that's ever happened in my life because I had this recognition. It made me who I am, and it brought me to this moment with the hope and possibility that I could still have the life that I want. And then over time, the next step was my inner world, an inner acceptance of myself, knowing that I am okay just the way I am. I could easily have gotten to the place that I'm not okay. He left me. There's something wrong with me. And that's a battle you will never win. We have everything We need to complete this moment. And I have learned the hard way that we are okay when we decide to be okay. And through self-acceptance and self-love, we step into our true, authentic self. And there is nothing better than that. To know you are okay just the way you are. And it doesn't mean you're not going to want to change things. It doesn't mean you're not going to go back to school. But these are outer things. You were born with everything you need to be who you are. And that is your authenticity that gives you more strength and more light than anything else will. And when you recognize that and you own that, you have a solidness and a joy and a capacity within you that nothing and nobody could ever give you. And that, I have to say, was one of the biggest gifts of my life. I will never sit and say, oh, it was great my husband left me. It was horrible. And there are things that I will probably miss my entire life. But I chose to dig deep and find an okayness that I never had in my life, which has made me have more inner joy and more resilience because I have more acceptance of me. And it's not in a way that, oh, I love myself, I don't care what anyone else thinks. That always sounds so harsh to me. It's more, I love myself and I have more capacity to love the world and to be out there with an open heart. Because I know if I get hurt, I will be okay. Some people I find harden themselves as if they're in a battle with the world. They love themselves, but the world's against them. And to me, that's missing the point. I want to be out in the world even more. I want to love more deeply. I want to feel more deeply because I know I have it in me to do it. And the last piece I always think about is what can I control and what I can't control. It's a little similar to acceptance, but it's not. It's just such a great awareness to let go, that we realize that we can only control our reactions and we can't control what other people do. And it doesn't mean other people are not going to hurt our feelings. Again, you must process your feelings. We're not robots. If we don't process what we feel, we allow things in the outside world to change who we are. That's why it's so important. You don't want to become less of yourself because people in the outside world hurt you. We don't want to change who we are. We want to become more of who we are. And if you know you're okay and you get hurt, you're still okay, even though you're feeling. You will survive the pain. But looking at things we can control and we can't control helps us let go during the day. This is outside of my control. This is outside of my boundary. This is this person. This is not anything to do with me and my inner world and what I need to do in this lifetime. So I like it because it's a really good measuring stick of where we are. And often, if we see it's out of our control, it's easier to let it go. But I know I talk about this all the time. I always like to think about it like it's raining. You can't argue with the rain. It is what it is. So we get our umbrella, we put on the right jacket, we go outside and do what we got to do. So those, I think, are the best 5 steps. The maybe practice, the acceptance, the gratitude, the inner world, and looking at what you control and what you can't control. MAGIC, magic. And that's what it is, because when we live by these principles, something magical happens. And what happens is that the light within us is always shining. We know uncertainty is our best friend because if we want our life to change, it has to happen in the unknown. Through maybe we could stay hopeful because we know things could happen many different ways. We just don't stay attached. We see things for what they are, but we don't close down because of them. We open up because of them. We learn who we are more deeply every day. We accept who we are more deeply every day. And we dream bigger every day because we know there's an expansive nature to life. And we know that we want to have these experiences. But we know these experiences don't make us who we are. They just enrich our lives. And I remember that day when my life fell apart 5 years ago. And I thought it was the end. And it was. It was the end of a part of my life and the beginning of a new one. So wherever you are today, whatever ending you're experiencing, whatever sadness you have, know with each breath there is a new beginning. And you have what it takes to complete this moment and live your dreams. And for all you know, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe or Year Without Men, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.